Going on, family? Waiting for the people to come in. What's going on, family? Waiting for the people to come in. Just checking my audio. Peace, Earth. Checking my audio. If you can hear me, drop a book emoji. If you can hear me, drop a book emoji. Checking my audio. Let's see. Peace. All right. Checking my audio. Welcome. If you can hear me, drop a book emoji. About to have a high level. All right. Cool. We're about to have a high level conversation, high level dialogue. High level dialogue. You know, we all about the education. We all about the elevation. So we about to get it on. Make sure that you have your papers, your book, and your pens ready to jot down some notes, because it's that type of episode today. All right. If you here, you can request me and we can go from there. You request me, I can approve it, and then we just go from there. All right, family. So definitely this conversation today, we're going to speak on Moorish history. We're going to speak on ethnicity, nationality. We're going to speak on Noble Drew Ali. May Allah be pleased with him. We're going to speak on Marcus Garvey. May Allah be pleased with him. Man, I'm telling you, this is going to be a dope dialogue. I'm so excited and elated right now. So definitely get your pens and paper ready, family. This is going to be dope. High level conversation. All right, on right now. All right, bringing a good brother on right now, family. Make sure that you share this video. Make sure that it get out to the masses. Share this video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my brother. How are you?
Man, by Allah's grace and mercy, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling better.
Wonderful. That's what counts.
Yes, sir. So I'm about to do the intro. I'm going to do the intro. I'm going to play my intro. I'm going to speak a little bit about the podcast, and then I'll introduce you.
All is truly well, beloved.
All right. Here we go. Oh, wait. Let me get my other. All right.
Welcome to DTR 360 Books Podcast. DTR 360 Books are helping to increase reading literacy. We are here to create more doers and less talkers. This is where we execute the knowledge and put it into action. Enjoy this week's episode of the podcast.
Assalamu alaikum, shalom, hotep, Islam, alafia, peace. What's good, family? Welcome to another episode of DTR 360 Books Podcast, episode number 9. Oh man, this episode here will be high level. This episode here, you will definitely need your paper and pens. This episode here, I guarantee you will learn something in this dialogue here tonight. All right. So before we get started, family, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. DTR 360 Books. We're trying to get up to 500 subscribers. We just started. So hopefully before 2021 ends, we can get up to 500 subscribers. Also, follow us on our podcast outlets, whether if you listen to Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, whatever podcast outlet you are on or you listen to, you can definitely search for us there and follow us and subscribe to our podcast outlet. Also, we're on Facebook as well, so follow us on Facebook and like us on Facebook. All right. So as I said before, make sure that you share this live. Make sure that this live gets out to the masses, to as much people as possible, because our platform and our mission is to help spread the truth, and it is to help speak truth to power as it relates to literature, books, knowledge, wisdom, and information. All right. So without further ado, I present to you Brother Cosmo L. Assalamu alaikum, Aki. How are you, beloved?
Wa alaikum salam. All is truly well. Islam, my brother. Can you hear me?
You kind of you went out a little bit.
All right. How about now?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly well now.
Wonderful.
Awesome. How are you, beloved?
All is truly well. How are you, my brother?
Yes. Alhamdulillah, all is well as well. I'm glad. Well, thank you first and foremost for being flexible and coming on and again just sharing your expertise, sharing your insight, and sharing your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to the people here tonight. So first and foremost, thank you, beloved.
Gratitude also.
So
gratitude to you for having the platform that you do, doing the work that you do, and also allowing me to reach your audience, beloved. Gratitude, Islam.
Alhamdulillah, Islam. So let's start it off. What was your upbringing like?
My upbringing.
Yeah.
My upbringing, was not unlike many of the so-called black children in the United States. I was raised in Southern California, Long Beach, California. Not that it was more upscale, but we were kind of like the last thing they needed to get out. Kind of a European school up into the 3rd grade. And then we moved towards northern Long Beach and stuff. And then I was able to become more saturated around my people. And of course, I enjoyed that. But immediately I started running into a lot of the problems that we run into. Back then you had breakdancing and pop lock popular. So the young people were kind of into that. One crucial thing that happened in Long Beach is that breakdancing and pop locking on the street was outlawed. And so a lot of people went back into gang banging and drug selling and stuff like that. So that was really prevalent in my community at that time. Neighborhoods looked like bombs had been dropped in some cases. And so really the environment that I was kind of around was not a good environment. It was a crack explosion during that time. And so, but the one thing it did was it enabled me to not want to do crack,
Right.
of how people were. So I tended to stay away from those kind of things and got more into the studies, started rapping, in Long Beach. And that was a great outlet. And as being in hip hop back then, hip hop was a lot more conscious than it is now. And so I started listening to stuff like Public Enemy and Rakim and, consciousness. And so that kind of set me on the road. My mother's home, it was knowledge flow freely. Watched a lot of documentaries, everything from anthropology to religion, so on and so forth. So wasn't really sheltered from knowledge. And so that kind of, I think, encompasses my upbringing.
Awesome. Beloved, they saying that your audio is going in and out. I'm not sure if you have a strong internet signal.
Let me see. I don't know.
You look kind of blurry as well.
Is
You
that,
looking blurry.
it looks good on my end. Let me
Okay.
let me check my let me all right. How about now? How's that?
All right. Yeah. Let's see. You sound a little better.
Yeah, I had to connect to the.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Is that better?
Yes. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. All right. All right. So let's continue. All
Okay.
right. Great. So you said so your upbringing, like most quote unquote black people, was crack infested. You grew up dancing, rapping, so on and so forth, right? And so I'm just curious, so at what age did you become conscious, and at what age and how did you get introduced to the Moorish Science Temple?
Islam. So again, I started rapping early. I was kind of tall, so I got, I could kind of do things that older people would do, even though I was young. So let me just give you a little background. I went to my first party at the Hutch when I was 8 years old, but it was a 12-year-old, 13-year-old party, right? So from that time, I kind of kept doing teenager type things. So by the time I got around 14 years old, from listening to hip hop, listening to Malcolm and Farrakhan and all of these things, I decided, hey, I want to learn more about this. And so at around 14 years old, I actually started searching, discovered Islam. I started studying it heavily and dedicated my life to that. And in the process of studying Islam and Islamic history, I realized that just like with all other faiths and religions, it seemed like we weren't very present in it. And so I set out to kind of find ourselves in history and in Islam in particular, and to Moorish history. It was only divine providence that as I began to start studying Moorish history, I ran into some Moors. Moors were
Mm.
around that time. It was only 5 in the city after I met the Moors, and we kind of linked and connected. And we were saying 5 or 6 for some years. So it wasn't like you have the internet. You didn't have Moors today. This was the 1990s, around 1991. And so I realized very early that based on what the Moors were teaching, that it appealed to me because I never understood why other people had names that connected them to something greater, and all we had was black and Negro and these types of names. So I started to dig further. Yes.
Mm. That's peace. That's peace. Cool. So speaking of the Moorish Science Temple, right?
Mhm.
Who was or who is Noble Drew Ali? And why don't more people know about him?
Well, if I were to be truly honest, I would say that Noble Drew Ali represents the savior of so-called black people here in North America. That's a bold statement, and it sounds strange to people who don't know of Noble Drew Ali. And the reason why people don't know of Noble Drew Ali is the same reason why people don't know many things in this country. It's something that it's not knowledge that they want to be known, and so it remains hidden. And they use every device that they can to keep this kind of knowledge away from the people. So Noble Drew Ali was born in the state of North Carolina, 1886. All right, and he founded the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913. So it was 60-something years after 1865 when the so-called black people are freed by the Emancipation Proclamation. So what he came with in this 60-something odd years after slavery and what he established for our people was monumental, especially at that time. A lot of times when people hear of Noble Drew Ali, they kind of compare it to now, where now you have all types of knowledge, you have all kind of organizations, you have all types of establishments. But back then, you only had the Moorish Science Temple of America. And especially they were teaching that our people were not Negroes, not blacks, not colored, that these names are social constructs, that there's terms that allude to slavery. And as long as we cling to them, that we are basically mental slaves. Mental slavery, Noble Drew Ali was, if not the first, one of the first people to use the term mental slavery. And this term was used to get our people to understand that though the Emancipation Proclamation had freed them on paper and it freed them according to the law, they were not free of the mental servitude, the cultural, the economic, and the social, and the religious servitude that they still experience. So I could go on and on. I mean, Noble Drew Ali raised more than $1 million during the Depression. If anyone else had done that, you would know about him, especially in the so-called Black community. But he brought two important things. He brought nationality and divine creed. And through these two things that he brought, so-called Black people are able to get their true freedom and not walk around as slaves and carrying the slave names and the slave culture and carrying on principles, names and principles that delude to slavery.
Indeed. And so, if I'm not mistaken, Aki, I know that also Noble Drew Ali, he was the first one, or one of the first one, to bring Islam to North America. Speak on that, beloved.
Islam, yes, you know, it was only recently at Savior's Day, I think about 2014 or 2012, somewhere around that Farrakhan finally spoke up on Noble Drew Ali. And he mentioned that Noble Drew Ali was the first to bring Islam. He mentioned that Noble Drew Ali was also Elijah Muhammad in the first speech that they made outside of the mosque. And he also mentioned that El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz was present, Malcolm X at the time, that Elijah Muhammad lifted up two people, Noble Drew Ali and Marcus Garvey. And so these two elements, they kind of go hand in hand in our doctrine. These two elements come together to bring something that again frees our people. So, you know, I think from the question a little bit, but what was the original question that you asked?
The original question was, who was Noble Drew Ali?
All right. So, again, Farrakhan finally spoke up on Noble Drew Ali, and people began to know about him. He became to be more acceptable to speak about Noble Drew Ali in those circles. And so Noble Drew Ali founded the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913 AD. He brought Islam. He established an Islamic organization here in North America. Islam was here because Islam was always here because Muslims were enslaved. And so you had people like, what's the brother's name? I can't remember his name right now, but I don't want to say Sunni Ali. I believe his name was Sunni Ali. He's one of, he was known to wear fez, and he was known to write in Quranic script. But the thing about Noble Drew Ali is what he did was he established Islam here. So we have people, Islam was present, but he established Islam for us when many of us come from Islamic backgrounds prior to slavery. He established that, and in doing so, he did something very great because he created in a sense, a religious jurisdiction for our people. If I can continue just a little bit more, so because I know that sounds a little far-fetched, so I want to explain something to people. Most people, they say, well, I'm not into religion, I'm into spirituality, right? And I say you need to be into both. Spirituality is your personal connection with the Most High. But religion is the school and the discipline, and religion provides something very special. It enables you to now govern yourself according to your religious beliefs and your religious government. And this is why Noble Drew Ali brought religion, because when we look, most people understand religion as something that's non-political. But when you look at religion, you see that it's the first right enumerated in the Constitution. And so it has a lot of bearing on law. So by Noble Jew Ali bringing us a religion aside from Christianity, one that we were known to rule under, because Moors ruled under Islam from 711 to 1492 in Spain, which is when slavery started, when we fell in Spain. So what he did was he restored to us that which enabled us to rebuild our government by giving us our nationality, taking us outside of Negro, black, and colored, and also returning to us our divine creed by which we could govern ourselves. Nationality is not black, it's not Negro, it's not color. These terms come from slavery. In order to have a nationality, we say we want a nation. We say we're a nation within a nation, where the root word in nationality is nation. So if you have a nation, it's not something that you make up. It's something that if you lost it, you have to go back and get it. You have to go back and find it, and you restore it, revitalize it, and retain it. And so this is what Noble Jew Ali did. He retained, restored, and revitalized our culture, our nationality, and giving us our divine creed, something that we can operate outside of the Roman Judeo-Christian jurisdiction, right? So that's another thing. You know, they established this based on Christianity. They beat Christianity into us. They took us outside of that, and then they put us under their religious law. And so we have to also get from under their religious law as well. So this is the significance of what Noble Jew Ali brought, but primarily to just narrow it down before we even get deep off into the jurisdiction part. The nationality is key for so-called Negroes, blacks, and coloreds in this country. And all they have to do is ask themselves, why in 2021 are they still labeled what the slaveholder labeled them on the plantation? Why do they still carry the very slaveholders' names? Now, if we're conscious and if we're free, then why do we have the names of the slaveholder? Because something's amiss. So that's one of the first things you do when you become a Moor. You annex that name. You put your free national name, and you proclaim your free and national name. And this is a part of leaving that mental slavery behind, and also conforming to the law, nature's law and governmental law. I hope I'm not going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, that was fully loaded. I just hope that the audience that are on the live and that will be listening grasps your intention and grasps the knowledge that is being bestowed upon us here tonight. I just want to go back a little. Yes, I just want to go back a little bit. We spoke on Noble Jew Ali, and someone put in the chat Deuce Muhammad Ali. Again, many people don't know about Deuce Muhammad Ali, who was a part of the UNIA, and actually he was a mentor of Marcus Garvey. But Marcus Garvey was heavily influenced by Muslims. So just to your point, a lot of us don't want to be religious. We love to be more spiritual and so forth. And many of us love Marcus Garvey. But Marcus Garvey, as I say, was heavily influenced by Islam, by religious practices. He didn't thoroughly establish or speak about Islam or any religious aspect. However, again, he was influenced by Islam through Deuce Muhammad Ali and through Noble Jew Ali. You actually see pictures of Noble Jew Ali, Marcus Garvey together. So what is the connection, if you will? What is the connection between Noble Jew Ali and Marcus Garvey? May Allah be pleased with both of these great brothers.
Allah, yes, indeed. May Allah be pleased with them both. You know, they keep a lot of history away from us. We have to understand when you start studying your culture and you start studying history, it's literally his story. So they're not going to teach you anything that's going to free your mind. All right, you have to understand this. They're only going to teach you something that is going to keep you in the same condition so that they can continue to exploit you. If that were not true, then we would not be in this condition today. So when we're dealing with Marcus Garvey and Noble Jew Ali, and he brought up Deuce Muhammad Ali. Deuce Muhammad Ali is a fez-wearing brother who was a Muslim, I believe, from Egypt, maybe. I'm not.
Yes, he was Sudanese and Egyptian.
Sudanese. There was Sudanese and Egyptian, and so he helped Marcus Garvey with the newspaper, the African Times Oriental Review. He was one of the main writers. He actually coined the phrase "Africa for the Africans." So a lot of people, they don't know that phrase "Africa for the Africans," it actually comes from a Muslim, Deuce Muhammad Ali. Another impact on Marcus Garvey was Edward Wilmot Blyden. Now, he's very instrumental. His book, Islam, Christianity, and the Negro Race, was so influential on Marcus Garvey, it was known as the Bible of Garvey. And so people should really look into Edward Wilmot Blyden and his works as well. Many Muslims wrote for the newspaper of Marcus Garvey and were in the UNIA and the ACL. Marcus Garvey was called several times a child of Allah in the newspaper. Marcus Garvey, there was actually a hymn written from Marcus Garvey that contained Allah, for the UNIA, that contained Allah's name. And Allah, one God, one aim, one destiny. So Marcus Garvey was not a stranger to Islam. There was actually a meeting that was called where Islam almost became the official religion of the UNIA. However, Marcus Garvey said that they didn't want to choose a religion. They wanted to teach people how to use their religion scientifically. So, in our doctrine, I want to read something here that Marcus Garvey said.
Yes, sir.
He said,
Please.
"The Negro is crying for a Muhammad, a prophet to come forth and to give them the Quran of economic and intellectual welfare. Where is he?" Garvey cried. And this it was 1917 in, what was the name of that? It was a particular magazine. It'll come to me. Champion Magazine, I believe it was. Champion Magazine, 1917, and you can reference that. And so I want to read something else that comes from our Divinely Prepared book, the Circle 7 Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, which will give an understanding as to in what esteem the Moorish Science Temple and Moors in general hold Marcus Garvey. It says, let me see here. It says that in these modern days, it says John the Baptist was the forerunner. Excuse me here. John the Baptist was the forerunner to Jesus in those days, to warn and stir up the nations and to prepare them to receive the divine creed which was taught by Jesus. In these modern days, there came a forerunner who was divinely prepared by the great God Allah, and his name is Marcus Garvey, who did warn the nations and of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet. And so this is, we look at Marcus Garvey as a forerunner to Noble Jew Ali, who prepared and paved the way for people to be able to receive the understanding that Noble Jew Ali was bringing specifically to the so-called Negroes, blacks, and coloreds of North America, that they did need to deal with nationhood, that they did need to begin to recognize that they're one unit and to come together and link themselves with the families of nations. So, but again, Marcus Garvey was not of the so-called Negro, black, and colored bloodline. So he had a message for all of the diaspora, whereas Noble Jew Ali's message was specifically, as far as nationality is concerned, to uplift the so-called Negroes, blacks, and colors of North America, right? And of continental America, I should say, and to, but the Moorish Americans in North America, and to also help Asiatic, the so-called Asiatic race in general. So Marcus Garvey is looked upon as a forerunner, someone that prepared the way. We also study Marcus Garvey lessons as well. Put the lessons to the side. We study both Marcus Garvey and Noble Jew Ali. If you study what Marcus Garvey, what Noble Jew Ali did, you'll see that Marcus Garvey and Noble Jew Ali were both economic pioneers in our community, and both pushed the economic program, which was adopted by the Nation of Islam and other organizations and other groups that intended to help free our people going down the line. So every group has its root in the Moorish Science Temple of America, yet that one problem has still yet to be solved about Negroes, blacks, and colors not having their nationality and proclaiming their free and national name, and still having the brands, the marks of Negro, black, and colored, and the very slave names, the very names of the slaveholders. And so Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Divine and National Movement in general, has the solution for these and much more.
Yes, yes. We are about to get into the whole nationality and the word black and everything. But I want to stay on topic just a bit. So you mentioned the Nation of Islam having ties to the Moorish Science Temple and everything like that. I just want to let the people know, and if you could speak on it a little bit, that Master Fard Muhammad, he was in the Moorish Science Temple. And as you just alluded to, and we don't give credit to, the Moorish Science Temple was a foundation to all of these organizations and programs that we see today, i.e. the Nation of Islam, i.e. the UNIA of Marcus Garvey, and so many others. The Black Panther Party, who was influenced on Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam, right? So if it wasn't for the Moorish Science Temple, we would not have these prominent organizations that we come to know of today. Speak on that a little bit, beloved, if you will.
Yes, again, the Moorish Science Temple and Noble Drew Ali are the root cause of movement toward freedom in this country, established movements, movements where you actually have a constitution, that you can govern by, that you have laws, and you have a government that you can actually use to govern ourselves. We say we want a nation. Well, a nation has to have a government. And so that's what he brought. Many of the people who became prominent preachers and ministers of that time, from Daddy Grace to Elijah Poole or Elijah Muhammad, speaking just in a historical context. I know many people from the Nation of Islam may not agree that if Fard Muhammad was a part of the Moorish Science Temple or not, but speaking from a historical context, Fard Muhammad, yes. If you look at the early Nation of Islam newspapers, and you'll read that they use the same terminology referring to Fard Muhammad as a prophet. And you also see in the original photos that they all wore fezzes. This, if anything, is a known uniform of the Moors. And Elijah Muhammad talks about why they took the fez off, because at that time Moors were being, it was a lot of disputes, a lot of aggression from police officers and shootouts and all other types of things that would hurt a growing organization. So they distanced themselves from the Moors, and understandably so. But yes, if it was not for Noble Drew Ali, the Nation of Islam and the way that exists today, again, from Farrakhan's own mouth saying that they were forerunners in the context that he looks at it, then these movements would not exist in the way that they do today. The Black Panther Party, it's constitutionalism. It's under referencing the law, and it being influenced by El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. We have to understand Shabazz was not only in the Nation of Islam, but his parents were Garveyites. All right, his parents were Garveyites. So he was influenced in the most crucial stages of development of his upbringing with Garveyism. And so when you deal with the Nation of Islam, when you deal with Marcus Garvey and the Moorish Science Temple of America, memberships overlapped. And Garveyites also wore fezzes as well. So but you know about all of these people, but you never hear about Noble Drew Ali. The only reason you hear about him now is because he prophesied in 2000 that Moors will come into their own. And after the explosion of the internet, now it's because of the Moors that you know about Noble Drew Ali. It's not because of the media. The media still doesn't want you to know anything about Noble Drew Ali. But again, nobody has yet to solve the issue of nationality. when it comes to so-called Negroes, blacks, colors in this country. So without Noble Drew Ali, we would not have many of these other movements. We don't know what the landscape would look like for us here in North America.
Yes, man. It's crazy because again, Noble Drew Ali brought so much to America, and even just a little known fact, Noble Drew Ali studied in Kemet, or as we know today, Egypt. So he brought that knowledge from Kemet to North America to, again, as you just stated, establish Islam, and just to help wake us up, right? Our ancestors up of that day. So again, man, may Allah be pleased with Noble Drew Ali. He definitely doesn't get enough credit as he deserves.
Yes.
So you spoke on the Fez, right? Garveyites were in Fez. Definitely the Moors of the Moorish Temple were in Fez. What is the Fez, and why do Moors wear it?
So the fezzes are first and foremost is the birthright headdress of the Moorish American. What is a Moorish American? Descendant of Morocco, ancient Morocco, not to be confused. We're talking about an empire, not to be confused with the little Moroccan state that you see today. So that means we're descendants of Africa, right? Via the Moroccan Empire, and born in America. So that's a Moorish American. The headdress stems back to Fez, Morocco, where the headdress was created. It is a symbol that has since, which is a symbol that comes from our culture, which has since been adopted by many, 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 many other Asiatics around the world. Even the Europeans have adopted this insofar as the Shriners and other high-level degree fraternities wear the fez. So the significance of the fez, it has a lot of significance, but I'll just break down some of the significance. If you notice the fez, you'll see that it is conical shaped and it has a tassel. It has a fez circle around the head and a fez circle above the head. The fez circle around the head represents finite knowledge, like scientific, physical sciences. The fez circle around the head, above the head, represents infinite wisdom or spiritual knowledge and high-level metaphysical sciences. You'll notice that our tassel moves freely. When you see the Freemasons and they have their tassel is pinned down because their degrees are limited. Ours goes 360, which means we possess all 360 degrees of knowledge, and we're free to share it. All right, we're not bound down. So the fez also represents what the pyramid is to the earth. The fez is to the human head. It represents the human storehouse of knowledge. And so these are some of the significance of the fez. I could go into it. The tassel represents the coming together of the 144,000 uniting of the Asiatics. This refers to resurrection, or in these days we use the word conscious, becoming conscious or being resurrected. So this number 144,000, many people don't know that when you symbolisms of say Jesus being resurrected, there were also people who were resurrected and came out of the grave with him at a number of 140,000. So this represents the woke, conscious people, so to speak, that will unite and help to bring the earth into peace and love.
Right, indeed. So why the color red? Is it because the Moroccan flag is also red?
So red also is a color. Our flag, obviously, the field is red with the green star. The flag represents, the red represents, I don't like to use the term just blood, like it represents the blood of our people, but it represents the divine bloodline. So
the lineage.
Islam, yeah. So the Freemasons, they will tell you it represents blood, and it was white, and it got turned to blood, and all of that. It represents our bloodline. It also represents, is related to our flag, which is the cherry tree, known for its bright red flag and its green colors. This particular color also is known as a fire red, and so it also represents the ill or the intellectual ability, like fire, to break everything down to its very last compound.
Indeed, indeed. Now, you spoke on this a little earlier with nationality, but some people they can confuse with ethnicity and nationality. Can you explain the difference for us, beloved?
Yes, indeed. The root word in nationality is nation. All right. The nation is the people. All right. When you're a nation of people. That's the people. So we are our own nation within the nation. By us being a nation, we have a nationality. That nationality was taken from us and stripped from us in 1774 up until 1869. I'll give you an example of a nationality. Mexican, Mexico, right? Philippines, which even though Philippines is not a real nationality, it's really moral, but let's just say Philippines, Filipino. Um, uh, any other type of national, Puerto Rican, Puerto Rican. You can tell the person their nationality is related to the land or the nation that they come from, right? Nigerian, you're from Nigeria. You from Chad, you're a Chadian or something like that. I don't know how you would say that. So when you deal with black, what does it lead you to? When you deal with Negro, what does it connect you with? Colored. It doesn't connect you with the land. It doesn't connect you with the flag. It only connects you with slavery and the people who created these slave terms for you. All right. We could try to go into black metaphysical and go back and head chop 10,000 years, but we're talking about a nationality, right? So you have a nation, you have a flag, you have a government, you have a population, you have a people. So this is what was taken from us. We were taken out of our nation. Our nation was destroyed, scattered around, and put in bondage. And so when you get so-called freed out of bondage, we're freed on paper, then what do we return to? We don't return to the system that was enslaving us and say we're a part of that. No, we are Moorish American. Why? Because American, we're born here in America and we have blood ties. Not only did we build the country, but we helped frame the Constitution and we helped create the laws as well. So we have a legacy there. But we know our descendancy lies in this great Moorish empire that we were ruling in before we fell. And so just like any other that become occupied or that become put in bondage, then when you come out of that, you have to be restored to what you were before. Though we were emancipated and by paper, we weren't restored to our former state because our knowledge of self and our nationality was not returned. And our estates and things like that were not returned. So in order for us to, number one, take our place in this so-called American experiment as framers of this, as Moorish Americans, we have to say, wait a minute, we're not Negro, Black, and Colored. We have to officially proclaim this. You can proclaim this in your temple and various civic organizations, but then there's also a process to proclaim this in order to be recognized by the government in which you live and to all nations of the earth. And so that's what, when you hear about nationality and status correction and stuff like that, that's what you're dealing with. The Moorish Science Temple of America was the sole foundation that was created to transition so-called Black people. And listen closely when I say this. The Moorish Science Temple of America was designed to transition so-called Black people from these caste labels, from these chattel terms, into a real nationality and a real jurisdiction by which they could govern themselves in their own society like other nationalities do here. Even though they're here in America, they still govern themselves according to their own societal principles. And then when you add religion on that, it makes it even more powerful because the separation between religion and state in
podcast. We have a special guest here tonight, Cosmo L. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they keep freezing up.
All right.
We went a little too deep for them.
Yeah. Oh man. There we go. There we go. All right. Can you hear me good now?
Islam, yes, sir.
All right. All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to take this moment in time to let the people know that you are listening to DTR 360 Books podcast, episode number 9. We have special guests here tonight, Cosmo L. He is speaking on Moorish history, Noble Drew Ali, and so much more. All right, beloved, if you are on the live right now and you see the badge information, make sure that you click on the badge and you buy a badge for 99 cents or $2, okay? This will help the podcast grow and thrive and be successful. So make sure that you click on the badge and you buy any amount of badge. And you can make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell on our YouTube page, DTR 360 Books. And if you can, also, in any podcast outlets that you may be featured on, make sure that you follow us and subscribe to our Spotify page, iHeartRadio page, or even Google Podcast page. All right. So let's continue. All right. So now I know that Moorish Science Temple, they do not ascribe to the word black, right? As a term to identify us, people who look like me and you. Why is that so, beloved?
Islam, well, according to science, according to our doctrine, black according to science means death. Black is it's not you can it's an adjective. All right, so you can't use it to. None of us are even black. That's the first thing. First thing, we're brown, if anything. So if we want to be honest about it, we would be brown. None of us are black. You're brown. Your shirt is black. Your beard is black. So,
But there are some black people in this world.
there
I
are
just want to, yes.
black people in different places, but that is an adjective now. It becomes an adjective to describe somebody like skinny, tall, fat, or slim. When in reference to nationality, it has no place. What it does is actually denationalize a person. I mean, if you're from Nigeria and you're a Nigerian and I call you black, I've just denationalized you. Nigeria tells me who you are, your land, your flag, your culture, where you come from. Black tells me what? That in 9 times out of 10, you were in slavery here in North America, and that's where you received that name. So we don't use black because there's no nation of black people. And again, we're dealing with nationality. Aside from that, it is a slave chattel term, and it was there's laws that were made about black people that were created for so-called black people. You can just look them up, called the Black Codes. They also have the Negro Acts. And so when you're dealing with the term black, what you generally do is you denationalize yourself and you put yourself in an inferior position inside any society, because trust is built on names. Trust is built on your nationality. Trust is built on your culture, that you know that you can trust certain people. In our community, we have certain people we know they do good business, and then we have other people that you can't trust. So when you're dealing with nationality, color just doesn't fit the bill. Black, according to science, means death. We're talking with English. We're not talking about rechanging what it means. You look up a dictionary, you're going to see the most negative connotation. Negro, that comes from Latin, meaning black, which is, again, the same negative connotation. Come from black water that was named by Moors in Africa, the Niger River. Colored, anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. So none of these definitions apply to us. So, I mean, I don't know how more, but when you start looking at the legal implications of it, when you go somewhere and you walk into a place where everyone has a nationality and you say you're black, what you've done is you've now put yourself in an inferior position to everyone else that has a nationality. When you go in the courtroom and you're under black, what you are is you're under the 14th Amendment and you're subject. but you don't have any true rights as a real citizen. If that's the case, they wouldn't be renewing so-called black people's voting rights. So-called black people, the only one that have to have their voting rights renewed every 25 years, set to be renewed in 2031. They're the only one that have to, every time something goes on, you hear civil rights, and you still don't get no justice. When you hear people with nationalities, they have a problem. You never hear civil rights. You always hear what? Constitutional rights or human rights, because that's what humans deal with, human rights, and people of the law deal with constitutional rights. People who are citizens deal with constitutional rights. There's no such thing. What they tried to do is they created an auxiliary law for so-called black people that makes them think that they are true citizens, but they're not. If the so-called, under that term, we're all the same people now, but some of us have just changed our status and have proclaimed. So I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that I'm different from my so-called black brother and sister. The difference is that I've moved, and brothers like me have moved outside of that Negro, black, and colored jurisdiction and have put themselves in something real that is connected to their ancient forefathers. And
Cool.
so
All right. So,
that's the important. Yes.
right. So let's deal with it, right? So Moor versus black. You're saying that we should not call ourselves black. So if not black, then what?
All right. So Noble Jew Ali taught us that our nationality is Moorish American. We born in America, right? So you get a certain part of your identity from where you're born at, right? We didn't go through any official becoming so-called citizen process. So when we didn't get citizenship some other form or fashion, American is the born side of us. And then we have a descendant nature, just like anyone else. They say if you're Italian American, because some people say, well, I'm an American, that's my nationality. But then what kind of American are you? Because you have Italian Americans, Mexican Americans, Asian Americans, and that, but not just a straight American. They all have their own societies, their own culture, and things that are different that make up America. But make no mistake, we all should be able to self-govern in our own societies. So when you're dealing with the term Moor, you're dealing with someone who, the term Moor goes, we could get into the historical connotation of it, but Moor is related to the Moorish Empire, which is what we ruled under, the term that we ruled under. We called ourselves Moors, all right? In our language, the word Moor is Mar or Mur or Moor. In English, it's Moor. That's why every time you see a movie and it's about a Moor, you can look it up in the dictionary all you want, but the movie tell it too. You go see the movie, who they got playing a Moor? Morgan Freeman, right? Or they have, what's his name? Martin Lawrence playing a Moor.
Yeah.
Or they have, what's the other? Lawrence Fishburne playing a Moor. So historically, Moors were melanated people, and this is an original term that we ruled from 711 to 1492. We ruled in Spain under the Moorish Empire. When we fell in Spain, this is the beginning of the slave trade here in North America. Because you got to remember, the Spanish were the first to come to North America. The Spanish were the first to sell slaves. The English came later and adopted the system that the Spanish was using. That's why they got the word Negro from the Spanish, negro, right? So Moor, it deals with ancient Morocco, which encompassed the Northwest, Southwest Africa, across the Great Atlantis, even to the present North, South, Central America, and Atlantis Islands. This is before the great earthquake, which caused the Atlantic Ocean, right? You're dealing with, you have ancient history tied to this. Our history, they call it a myth. You see what I'm saying? They call it a myth, but you have the Atlantic Ocean, you have the Atlas Mountains, you have all of that. If you look at the Niger and you look at the Nile, they pick up right where they leave off, right across the water. So there was something there before. That kingdom of what they call Atlantis is no longer there, land of Mu. So this term Moor is very ancient, but in our most modern time, it was the Muslims of Spain, the Moors, and then one thing that people don't seem to not understand, because it's been hidden from them, is that not only did you have Moors over in the northwestern, southwestern shores of Africa, where if you're dealing with slavery, you're dealing with the slave coast, right? This was one of the encompass of the Moorish Empire. But you also had Moors in North America. You had a large population of Moors here in North America that were here for hundreds of years and even thousands of years that went by the term Moor. And to this day, you still have that designation with the CC under the hierarchical code of 1237-7 as Moor. But anytime you look up Moor in the dictionary, it always takes you to Africa and always say Arab Berber mix, but they never tell you about none of the Moors over here. They don't tell you that the first treaty, everyone knows about the Treaty of 1789 with the Imperial Morocco and the United States, but they don't tell you that the first treaty was with the Moors on these shores, 1682, with the so-called Native American Moor named Terminin, who to this day is an American saint, and nobody knows about him. But when they refer to him in history, they call him a Moor. Matter of fact, Terminin is known as the king of the Moors. And so you have Moors on these shores. So Moor is not just a nationality that is limited to the borders of Africa, because it was an empire. And you have variations of this word Moor, Moor, Mar, Moor, Mari, Moro, all around the planet. And where do you find it? You find it with pyramid and mound civilization. So we're dealing with a global ancient empire that they have been hiding all of this history. And I know it may sound kind of far-fetched for people who are not history buffs and don't study, you know, the historical findings of what they have. But has anyone ever stopped to think, why are there pyramids here in North America? More pyramids here than there are in Egypt. There's pyramids all around the world. Doesn't that suggest global civilization? Unless people just popped up making pyramids all by themselves all over the world, right? So again, it's kind of hard to, because I want to cover so many bases with the word Moor, but just to keep it simple, it's the name that we were in prior to our fall. That's what makes it significant, because when you get freed, you go back to what you were. Let's keep it very simple. If I was Moor before I got enslaved, then I'm not going to come out calling myself something else. I'm going to come back to what I was before, restore my culture, and start living as myself. And that's the key. It's not just about knowing anymore. It's about knowing and living. Because, see, the problem is people are not living, and now they're starting to suffer. And whenever we get to it, I do want to bring up, you know, the vaccination and exemptions so I can illustrate a point.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. So before we get into that, I just interviewed the great elder Baba Kaba Kamini, and he said that when he was brought in to speak at the Moorish Science Temple in Baltimore, I think he said it was like early 1990s, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't want him to speak on Moorish history, right? They wanted him to speak on African history. And he said that Moorish history is in fact African history. And so if you also alluded to that as well, but if you can kind of expound a little bit on Moorish history and go a little deeper into the Moors ruling not only Spain, right, but they ruled other parts of Southern Europe as well, Italy, Portugal, even some parts of Turkey. And so how is Moorish history African history?
All right, I would say it is African history, but I also add Moorish history is world history, because Moors are the original people of the planet. All right, when you this Moor, like I said, this Moor term they call Hannibal a Moor. They use the term Moor in Greece. They use the term Moor in Egypt. So this term goes all the way back.
And there was also the word Moor on as hieroglyphs on the walls of ancient Egypt as well.
Yeah, so in our language it's Mar, and this is written in the Palermo stele, and it has the definition. It has Mar on there. It has the definition of the high priest of Anu. And so a lot of people, some people, they may not understand that when they say the high priest of Anu, They think of a religious order because high priest is there, but they don't realize that the people were also known as Anu, right? And these people of Anu, right, were known as Mar. So when you're dealing with Anu, well, who is Anu? The Anu is the Cushites, all right? Who were the first inhabitants of Africa? The Cushites, right? Omo Valley, right? Noble Ali teaches us the first inhabitants of Africa was Cush and his family. His father Ham and his family came second. The dominion of Cush was northeast and southeast Africa. The dominion of Ham was northwest and southwest Africa. All right. So when you're dealing with that term Mar that is in the Palermo Stele, it actually is referring to the ancient Cushites, who are otherwise known as the Anu. So when I say that this term goes all the way back, that's what I mean. But that's just in Africa. So that's the point of where African history is Moorish history. And then you'll see variations of Moor and Mar all through Africa, all through the Bible, all through everything else. But again, look at the term moral. All right. I say Moorish history is world history. Moral is the Latin way to say more. All right.
Spell that for me. Spell it.
Moro, M-O-R-O, moro, like Zorro, but moro. So moro is the Latin way to say moro. So Spanish, they say more. I talked about King Philip, right? And the Philippines earlier. And I said Philippines wasn't really a nationality because the Philippines is named after King Philip, right? They're not his children. They were natives, but what were they before? They were known as Moros. Those islands were known as the Moro Islands. And a few years ago, the Bangs-Moro Island got its independence under Moro, not Philippine. They just had their independence movement and reclaimed their Moorish nationality and left Philippines. That's what the so-called Negroes, blacks, and colors of this country need to do. They left Filipino alone because they weren't Filipinos, because they're not children of King Philip who colonized the Philippines. It was the Moro Islands, and they went back to their original name. So-called Negro, blacks, and colors, they're not Negroes, blacks, and colors. They're ancient Moors who ruled the ancient Moorish empire, global empire. And in order for them to get their independence or to be recognized as a free people and not the footstool of the world, they too have to return to their ancient culture. Not even so ancient. Hundreds of years ago, they were under this term. And there's more Moorish, there's more so-called African history in Moorish history. Moorish history is not limited to an African view. It's a worldview because Moors are everywhere. We understand we're descendants of Africa. But just like Dr. Khalid Muhammad said, Africa was our throne, not our home, right? So we have to understand that that was our throne, not our home. You have the dominion and you have inhabitation. Our dominion was and capital was in Africa, but our inhabitation was the whole planet. All right, that's what Moorish history does for you. It puts it in a global view for you. So now, when things are happening politically, you're able to see yourself. When you look in Jerusalem and you see the Israelis and they come over there and they take Jerusalem, and you realize that the first 600 homes to be bulldozed by the Israelis were Moorish homes. Don't realize there was a Moorish community there on Davis Street, right? Davis Street, you could look it up, the first 600 homes. So now we see ourselves over there too. We're able to see ourselves internationally and not just be limited to this African oriented view that we've been put in, you know. So
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So yes, you wanted to speak on you wanted to hold on real quick. So you wanted to speak on the jab and vaccination and everything. Talk on that, beloved.
Yeah, I wanted to use that to illustrate the point. Because before COVID and all this, you know, people were saying, I'm not into religion, I'm not into religion, I'm not into religion. But now when they need to work, right, and they need to go to work, they need what? A religious exemption. You see what I'm saying? They don't need a spirituality exemption. You can't get no spirituality exemption. You need a religious exemption. So I was going back to my point of the power of religion in this country. It's a tool. It's something we need to know how to use. It's something that can reinforce our spirituality and something that can reinforce our ability to govern ourselves in this country. But if we cast it aside, guess what? You want to work, you're not going. You're going to have to. They're going to make you come into this temple. All right, because it's not going to change. They're going to keep on showing you that it's the end time prophecy. You have to worship under your own vine and fig tree, and every tongue has to confess its own. If you want to be a part of this society, you're going to have to play ball according to the way that they want you to play ball. But if you want to be free, you're going to have to return back to your faith. You're going to have to return back to your religious laws and put yourself under that jurisdiction. It just depends on what jurisdiction you want to be under. You want to be under your cultural and your religious faith jurisdiction, or do you want to be under the jurisdiction of this society that is causing us to do things that we don't want to do to ourselves? And so that's very important. Community, nationhood is very important. We have to start dealing with each other and putting this nationhood in practice. It's not about talking about it no more. It's not about I know I'm a Moor and this and that and the other. Being a Moor within itself is nothing because your parents did that. So you don't get nothing special just because you're Moor. Being a Moor and taking your place in Moorish society, that's what makes you special. That's what makes you have status in your own society, and that's what makes you be recognized by other societies because of what you're doing for yourself and what you're doing for your own society. And naturally, by osmosis, it's going to affect the greater society. And so now, when we return to our principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, we leave hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms alone. In our teachings, it says, what does the lower self breed? Right? We have a higher self and a lower self. The lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. And when you look at our community and when you listen to hip hop, that's all you hear: hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. That's what this society breeds in us. That's what this society wants us to manufacture and produce. Anytime you try to demonstrate something on a higher plane, a higher level of existence, it's not accepted. It gets crushed down. But guess what? The society is separation time. I don't mean separation necessarily even physically. I mean separation, a societal separation. And that is religion is going to play a very large role in that, because that's what enables us to have one of the most powerful rights enumerated in the Constitution and to have our own jurisdiction. So when it comes to that jab, just to illustrate the power of religion and why religion is useful, spirituality and religion don't need to be at odds with one another. They're not at odds in Africa, and in the East, they're only odds in the Western civilization because separation from church and state. But that is the very thing that will help us be able to keep ourselves outside their designs with this vaccination and whatever the heck else they have coming after it.
Yes, yes, man. Unity is something that we definitely need to work on, and that we definitely need to come together on, period, if we want to advance and really see true change in this world. Whether it be, you know, the Moorish Temple, Nation of Islam, you know, the UNIA is still up and running. You know, the Nuwapians, all of these organizations, because we all specialize in different aspects of freedom, right? The Moorish Temple specializes in nationality and law. You know, the Nation of Islam specializing in, you know, do for self, right? And so many of these other organizations specializes in their you know, speciality.
Yes.
So it's very important that we bring all of our thoughts, ideas, and speciality together so that, again, we can thrive and really have true freedom.
Work with the Nation of Islam. You know, here we attended their meetings. They told us they're going to come and support us on our next food giveaway. You know, the thing is this: you're being a Moor. You don't have to leave nothing to be a Moor. You gain in everything. It's Moors and Nuwabians. It's Moors in the nation. It's Moors that are Hebrew Israelites. It's a nationality. So you know, whether or not you accept some of the spiritual ideological side, right? Because it's universal. So once you understand more science, you can see the universality in all of the other ways. So it's not an either or. Nationality, within a nation, you have various tribes. See, these are all tribes. But what we have to do is come together under one banner, one nationality. But that doesn't mean we're going to have unity in our ideologies and on our tribal levels and on when we go to our individual temples, our individual groups. We don't need unity of ideology all the way. No nation has that. We have it with some, and some will have other, you know, but what we need is unity of action. See, we've been
Yes.
striving for unity of thought all this time. No, we're individuals. No nations. You watch the Koreans and they go to blows on their on their floor when they're deciding the law. They'll get to physically fighting. So and we're not that bad yet. We're not physically fighting like that. So what do I mean by unity of action? We all need the same things. So regardless if I'm a Moor, I mean, we're all Moors, but regardless if I'm a Muslim, regardless if I'm a Hebrew, regardless if I'm an atheist, we all need health care. So what we come together on is a hospital, a clinic, right? We all need businesses. So what we do is we do commerce with one another and strengthen our community. Make these, if we don't have physical markets and they don't want people going into the markets, then do your pop-up outdoor markets. You should have seen out here in Oakland. We had Lake Merritt. We took over Lake Merritt with tents. It was bigger than any African market that you could have. It was bigger than any market that you could have in so-called Latin America. And it was just the people. And it was thousands of dollars. And they fought so hard to shut it down. But during the pandemic, that was the economy of the people. People not only lived, but they thrived. We thrived during the pandemic, those of us that have been demonstrating on the higher plane and leaving their society alone. So, and those people who got conscious during the pandemic and started doing what some of us had already been doing, they saw the wisdom in it and they got the benefit in it and they're changed forever. So it's something that's not going to go back. We need to continue to do that. And you got this movie Matrix just came out. They telling you what's happening. Don't go back to sleep. Don't go back to sleep. You already woke. But a lot of people are going to go back to sleep because they want that matrix. They say, yeah, I need that steak. I want that steak. I can't have this vegan meal right now. I don't need no veggies. You know what? That's what's going to kill them in the long run, because I guarantee it's a catch-22 that come with that steak. You know, they already showing you with the jab. It's not going to stop there. They're inside your body. They're intrusive. They're that intrusive. Where do you think it's going to go from here? And the only place you can run is back to your own religion, back to your own culture. That's where you have to go. And if you don't know this, and you don't know, the Moorish Science Temple is here to adopt any more and help get them out of that Negro, Black, and colored status, help put them back on the right path to their freedom and their true independence.
So real quick, brother, if someone is interested in becoming a Moor, well, we all are Moors, as you just stated. We don't lose anything, we gain everything. But if someone is interested in becoming a member of the Moorish Science Temple, where would they go?
Yes, so depending on the region and the territory you're in, if there's a local Moorish Science Temple in your area, I suggest that you investigate it. You know, if you find that the people tend to not be your type of people, then, seek out something online. There are various, I suggest the Moorish Science Temple of America because I've studied outside of it, I studied inside of it, and I know the value of it. It shouldn't be any war between the Moor inside the temple and outside the temple. Just get that curriculum, just get that good Moorish American education. If you can't find one in your area, you can look online. You can also email the Minister of Culture at gmail.com, which is myself, and I can plug you in. If you're local and you're in the Bay Area, then you can also, let's see, we also have the Moorish Science Temple of America, Oakland on Facebook. And you can, we meet every Friday and every Sunday. And the address is 5859 MacArthur Avenue, Oakland, California, 94605. or just reach inbox, DM me, Cosmo L, COZMOEL, and I'll link you in. But we try to plug people in with their locale, because it's very important that we establish strong local revitalization of our government, so that when things happen, we can deal with it on a local level. A lot of times people want to go national and go big and all of that. Right now, it's very important for us to have strong local societies and support. And whether or not you're in the Moorish Science Temple or interested in the Moorish Science Temple, if you come away with nothing from this message but strengthening your community and your ability to depend on self, then we've done something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, this interview has been filled with so much supreme and infinite knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, beloved. Gratitude. I'm so thankful for you, and so thankful for all of your knowledge that you have bestowed upon us here today. As we embark on our conclusion, I would be remiss to let the people know that you are an author of many, many books, and this is a books page and platform. Um, if you can tell the people some of your books that you've written. I mean, I myself, as DTR 360 Books, have some of your books, if not all of your books, in our inventory on our website for about 2-3 years now. So yeah, tell the people about your books and the reason for you wanting to even write books about Moorish history.
Islam, gratitude for the opportunity to share my literature with the people. The reason I started writing is because Noble Ali teaches us we need to change the literature. And so I realized that there was not any information about Moors out here. And most of the literature that was out here, it dealt with Moorish science, very limited, just maybe from Noble Ali, just dealing with temple science and the theological side of it. So I decided to start bringing out the history so that people could have some knowledge of self. They could have some references with actual references, not just dogma, not just something that was created by someone, but actually from scholars, from libraries, museums, so on and so forth. So the first book that I started out to write was Moor, Volume 1. This is Volume 1 and 2. You can't find Volume 1 anymore. I discontinued it, but Moor 1 and 2. And this book, what it did, it just went through facts. Fact 1, Fact 2, Fact 3, Fact 4, till about 30 facts, and then it gets some more articles. Then part 2, again, some more facts, and then it gets into some articles. So not very structured, just kind of a lot of information, almost like a reference book for people to kind of reference and then go from there.
Is that the updated version?
This is still this is part 1 and 2. This is still
okay.
First edition. So excuse whatever typos, but the knowledge is very sound. Aside from the typos, this book still got some accolades from allblackmedia.com as being one of the top 15 books that so-called Black people should read. It was one of the top 6 books that HBCU students should read on the HBCU Lifestyle website. It's number 14 in etymology on short form, and a couple of other sites. So regardless, excuse the typos, but written for the common person. It's if you're looking for something that has a wide range of different knowledge about Moors historically, that's the book for you. I'm not going in order. This book right here, Moorish Our Story and the Secret of American Holidays, is one that I wrote because we have to leave their culture alone. We have to get out of the culture. All of their holidays, when you get down to it, are celebrating our fall. I mean, think about it. What else do they have to celebrate? They're celebrating on what they did to us. And if you dig deep enough, you can find it. And so it's a sad time of year for us, a time for us of reflection and remembrance and honoring our ancestors, not a time of celebration, many of them. So I illustrated that, and it's packed with a lot of more history to illustrate that point. A lot of people wanted to know about the Fez, so I wrote this book here, Secrets of the Fez, that what's its origin? Is it of European origin? Why do the Turks wear it? Did it start in Turkey? Because many people think that this is a Turkish fez, or it began in the Balkans or something like that. So I cleared up a lot of that. This one is my most recent. Well, the Holidays was my most recent book. This was this is my most recent book, Higher Self, Lower Self. And to me, this book is prime for the time, because many people know at least that they're more, or they use that term. It may not be deep, but they realize, hey, yeah, I'm not black, and they realize that it makes sense, and they start using the term and getting interested, and some people start studying more science. So again, like my first book, I wrote this so people could get an understanding of the more science temple doctrine of the higher self and the lower self, and how we're able to raise, basically to assist us in the shift and to raise ourselves to a higher divine spiritual being, after being debased to a low level of existence. Without having to go inside of a temple, you can still glean some understanding and draw some understanding from our spiritual sciences to see if it relates to you or not. And lastly, I'll point out this book, Moor to Moor, Kemet Until Now, the etymology, phonology, morphology, and semantics of the word Moor. And the reason I wrote that book, it's a little more scholarly. It's very short, but it's packed with a lot of information. And I wrote that book because you had people that would say Moor means black, Moor means death, Moor means this. It's a European term. So if Moor means black, then why call ourselves Moor? We might as well just be black.
Right.
Consequently,
Right.
why I wrote the book Blackamoor, because if Moor meant black, wouldn't be no reason to have the word Blackamoor, because that would just mean black, black. So what I did with Moor to Moor, Kemet Until Now, is I showed the Moorish origins of the word in Kemet and follow it up all the way until present time today in a very short time. But again, it's packed. It's a book to study. So even though it's short, it's something that you're going to find yourself going back and forth to for references. So, yeah, I have about 13 books, so I'll stop there.
Oh man. Alhamdulillah for that, man. Alhamdulillah.
Allah.
So last question, beloved, because it's getting kind of late on my side. So again, I'm very keen and indebted to education as a whole, right? I strive to always learn something new every day,
Yes.
right? And as they say, self-improvement is the basis for community development. So we should always be learning and striving to explore and learn new things. So it's a two-part question. What is education to you, and how important is education to you?
I'm glad you used the word self-development.
Yes, sir.
That's what education is. It's self-development. It's the ability to develop yourself into whatever it is that you wish to be. It's a famous quote from Marcus Garvey. He says, God made us what we are, and out of our own creative genius, we're able to make ourselves in what we wish to be. And so education is the ability to taking in knowledge to develop yourself, whether that be economically, intellectually, spiritually, physically. That's the purpose of education, is to develop ourselves. And why we want to develop? So that we can have the best life possible, so that we can live our best life and have ease in human activity. So that's the basis of education, as far as my drawing is. You said, what was the second part to that?
How is education important to you?
Oh, education is important, again, like we said, for self-development. Education can change one. It can the lack of it can take one have one at the lowest of lows, and education can take one to the highest of heights. That's one of the great gifts of the Most High to us, to be able to learn, not just through our sensory perception, but also peering off into the ideas of things. There's no other animal that the animals can look up at the sun, but do they know what the sun is composed of? Do they know how hot it is? Do they know it's 93 million miles away from the earth? Do they know, we've been given a great gift to be able to have knowledge. Education is also power, because knowledge is power. So in order to become more powerful, whether it be willpower or whatever power, knowledge becomes important. So education is important in order to change one's condition in life from a lower condition to a better condition. So we're able to lift ourselves up, and that's why education is something that is controlled. That's why that's the first thing that they attack and keep us on this base level of materialism. Because if we become spiritual beings and are able to defy our lower self, then there's no other way to control us. There's no other way to keep us enslaved. They only keep us enslaved with sex, drugs, lewdness, and things of lower chakra. They can't keep us enslaved with love.
Right.
Become a servant of the Most High then. So that's the importance of education, and especially in the early years. It's more important in the early years than the later years, because children absorb and form their personality up until the age 7. And so we have to make sure that education is impressed upon our children even more so. And that's why they let you.
Brother, we can't hear you.
The truth.
Bro, we can't hear you, brother.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. In college, they let you learn the truth. Like right now, you can learn all manner of truths in college. But guess what? In elementary school, they still teaching the same old garbage to the children, because they know. So it's more important for us to change the education for the children than it is to worry about what our older selves is arguing and fussing and fighting about. Just make sure the children get it.
Man, we could go on and on and on, but definitely we need a part 2. We will conclude here. Man, thank you, beloved, so much. Again, for your infinite and supreme knowledge, wisdom, understanding, overstanding, and understanding on various topics that we touched on and spoke upon. You are a great scholar, a living legend. And keep on keeping on, brother.
Gratitude, beloved, and I return the same sentiment also unto you, my brother, as an educator, especially of the seeds and promoting and getting the knowledge and the books out. That's if not more, as equally as important as what I'm doing. So gratitude for that. I did want to mention that also, if someone's gonna be in Seattle on January 14th or 13th to the 16th. I do have 2 book signings, one in Seattle and one in Tacoma, Washington. So if people are going to be in Seattle or actually Washington, any of those dates, they can go to my page and see where I'm going to be at in Seattle and Tacoma. And I look forward to seeing anybody who wishes to come. I look forward to seeing them there.
Right. And I just seen someone said, Noble Drew Ali said, follow no one but the truth. So that's peace.
Right,
Follow the truth, speak truth, and the truth will actually set us free.
Islam,
All right, so yes. I leave you as I greeted you. Assalamu alaikum, shalom, hotep, Islam, alafia. Peace.
Islam.